Afternoon, and I welcome you to this special briefing on COVID-19 from the perspective of Ministry of External Affairs, and also from the perspective of so many of the Indians and OCI cardholders who are abroad. I have with me the Additional Secretary and Special Coordinator for COVID-19, Shri Damu Ravi. I also have Mr. Dinesh Adhikari, who is the Deputy Director at Bureau of Immigration. We will start with the initial remarks by the Additional Secretary, and after that we will take questions from all of you. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ravish. Good afternoon to all of you. As a matter of giving you a slight update since last we met, I would like to give you a slight overview of what happened since the last we met. So, one, you all are aware that Prime Minister held a video conferencing with the leaders of SAARC countries. There were few initiatives announced. The Ministry of External Affairs, in close consultation with the other ministries, concerned ministries, are working towards their implementation, some of which have already been implemented, ongoing. Few travel advisories have been issued, and few evacuation missions were carried out, both in Iran and Italy, successfully. The group of secretaries are reviewing it on a daily basis, the situation around the world, and the group of ministers are taking decisions from time to time, and Prime Minister is monitoring the developments on a regular basis. It is all of government effort to control and contain this pandemic. As you all are aware, that Ministry of External Affairs has set up a COVID control room with helplines, with dedicated helplines, 24/7. A team of officers are interested to taking these calls and responding to the concerns that are being raised by Indians all over the world on a regular basis, on a timely basis. The concerned ministries also have the helplines, and they're responding to the queries. Further, the Ministry of External Affairs is further beefing up, strengthening the COVID control room to respond to specific queries coming from specific countries. So, just to mention to you that the kind of attention that we are giving to this crisis. Thank you.
I now open the floor to questions. You have some announcement to make?
I just would like to inform that there is a 24/7 helpline of BOI also, as was brought out earlier also by one of my senior colleagues in the earlier press brief, since functioning since 17th evening. Until now we've had about almost more than 1,355 calls in that, and about 522 emails which have been replied by our call center since 17th evening till now. They are basically from all the foreigners who are here in India or who are abroad, and they are concerned about their wards or kith and kin here in India. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I open the floor to questions. प्रणय
सर, अगर आप थोड़ा सा डिटेल बता सकें कि कोविड सेल के अंदर कितने लोग काम कर रहे हैं, कितने कॉल्स आपके पास आ रहे हैं, और जो ये स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए आप प्रयास कर रहे हैं कि इलाकों में कई जगह पे जैसे फिलिपीन मनीला में एयरपोर्ट के ऊपर बच्चे फंसे हुए हैं, उन तक खाना पहुंचाने के लिए, या किस तरीके से जो लोग डिस्ट्रेस में हैं उन तक जरूरी मदद पहुंचाने की क्या कोशिश कैसे हो रही है, अगर थोड़ा डिटेल दे पाएं।
Of MEs, okay.
I thought you had already conveyed it. But anyway, we will give you the details of the helplines and the emails once again. To answer your first question, currently in the MEA control room, COVID control room, we are about 25 to 30 people working. And then these are in teams, in shifts. So we have 24/7 manning facility, which is like you have 8 hours, 8-hour shift. Then we are now going to further strengthen to larger groups, specific countries, and they will be further beefed up tomorrow to strengthen this team, and we will have a lot more specific queries coming. The number of queries that are coming in, that was one of your questions. We are getting on the emails about 400 or so, and telephone calls about 600. So about 1,000 calls are coming in a day, which we are promptly replying to.
You see, we had announced the helpline numbers, including the email. I will again read it out. We have a toll-free number, which is 1800-118797, and there are 3 landline numbers, 011-2301-2113, 2301-4104, and 2301-7905. We have a fax number, 011-2301-8158, and the email ID is covid19@mea.gov.in. Vinita?
So you talked about the follow-ups on the SAARC discussions that had happened. So can you elaborate on what kind of follow-up is happening, since you have 1 week to start working on that? Just a little bit of elaboration on that.
You see, Vinita, a crisis of this magnitude, it does not recognize borders. And it also requires a very coordinated response. It requires a response where you have to cooperate at the regional and global levels. Now, it was in this spirit that Prime Minister decided to take the initiative of getting all the SAARC leaders together to closely cooperate how to address the pandemic which was unfolding in this region. And during that video conference, you are aware that Prime Minister announced several proposals. And I can announce you today that we are moving very fast on most of these proposals and announcements. On the emergency fund, this is already up and running. We have received many requests from other SAARC countries for assistance in the form of masks, in the form of shoe covers, in the form of gloves, disinfectants, and other items. The quantum of assistance which has been requested so far, it has already crossed $1 million. Supplies to Bhutan and Maldives, they have already been dispatched, they have already been effected. And other requests from other SAARC countries, they are under various stages of process. On the rapid response team, we have received informal requests from Maldives and Nepal. This is being followed up. On the health best practices and online training, a video conference is being scheduled in the next few days among the health professionals of all SAARC countries. The best practices being followed by the professionals, the health professionals in these countries will also be discussed. Action on other elements of the announcement, they have already been initiated by the respective ministries in this regard. Just hold on. I think you have to add something onto this.
I think, we need to keep it in mind, and that's a statement, the initiative of the Prime Minister takes the top priority in terms of implementation. So a lot of it has been operationalized, particularly the COVID emergency fund. And Prime Minister also has emphasized that, a successful cooperation in fighting this disease in the SAARC region can be a good example for other parts of the world. I think this is the time that we need to put our energies together, and all countries within the region are able to come together to fight this disease in a very coordinated, cooperated way. That's the underlining punch. So I think the Foreign Secretary subsequently will be having video conferencing to take it further, and the health experts too, later this month, are also planning to have a video conferencing to take it forward, specific elements.
सर, भारतीय प्रधानमंत्री की तरफ से सार्क के लिए एक बड़ी पहल की गई थी। तमाम देशों ने, सार्क के सदस्य देशों ने स्वागत किया, लेकिन इस मंच का भी पाकिस्तान ने दुरुपयोग किया, कश्मीर का मुद्दा उठाने की कोशिश की गई। भारत ने इसको किस तरह से लिया है?
ब्रह्म प्रकाश, पहले तो जो मैंने पढ़ा था उसको हिंदी में बता दूं कि देखिए इस स्केल का जो आपदा होता है, जो क्राइसिस होती है, उसके लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि रीजनल और ग्लोबल कोऑपरेशन हो। ये भी आपको पता है कि ऐसे क्राइसिस में बॉर्डर मीनिंगलेस हो जाता है, जो इन्फेक्शन है, जो वायरस है, इधर से उधर जा सकता है। और इसी स्पिरिट में हमारे प्रधानमंत्री ने ये निश्चय किया था, ये इनिशिएटिव लिया था कि सारे सार्क कंट्रीज़ के जो मेंबर्स हैं उनको एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर लाया जाए, जिससे आपस में बातचीत करके इसको किस ढंग से और किस तरीके से इसको एड्रेस किया जा सके, इस पैंडेमिक को, उस पर विचार विमर्श हो सके। और आपने देखा होगा कि जब वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग हुआ, प्रधानमंत्री की तरफ से, हमारी तरफ से ऐसे बहुत सारे अनाउंसमेंट्स हुए। और ये मैं बताना चाहूँगा कि जितने अनाउंसमेंट्स हुए हैं उस पर बहुत ही तेज़ी से प्रोग्रेस हो रहा है। अगर हम इमरजेंसी फंड की बात करें तो वो ऑलरेडी चालू है, और उसके तहत हमारे पास सार्क मेंबर कंट्रीज़ के से काफ़ी रिक्वेस्ट आए हैं। और जो रिक्वेस्ट की जो अभी अमाउंट है वो $1 मिलियन के ऊपर चली गई है। और रिक्वेस्ट मास्क के लिए है, रिक्वेस्ट ग्लव्स के लिए है, रिक्वेस्ट डिसइंफेक्टेंट के लिए है, रिक्वेस्ट शू कवर्स के लिए है। तो इन सारे जो रिक्वेस्ट है वो कंसिडर किया जा रहा है, डिफरेंट स्टेजेस ऑफ प्रोसेस में है। जहाँ तक भूटान और मालदीव्स का सवाल है, वहाँ से जो हमारे पास ये रिक्वेस्ट आई थी उसको अंजाम दे दिया जा चुका है। जो सामान उन्होंने मांगा था उनको पहुँचाया जा चुका है, बाकी जो है उस पर काम चल रहा है। जहाँ तक रैपिड रिस्पॉन्स टीम के अनाउंसमेंट की बात थी, तो ये मैं बताना चाहूँगा कि मालदीव्स और नेपाल से हमारे पास इनफॉर्मल रिक्वेस्ट आए हैं, इसको फॉलोअप किया जा रहा है। जो एक अनाउंसमेंट था हेल्थ बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, ऑनलाइन ट्रेनिंग, इस पर क्या हो रहा है, तो इसके लिए जो हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स हैं सार्क कंट्रीज़ के, इनकी वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग शेड्यूल्ड है। अगले कुछ दिनों में इसका हम अनाउंस भी कर देंगे डेट। और इसी मीटिंग में जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, जो हेल्थ प्रोफेशनल्स जो इसको फॉलो कर रहे हैं सार्क कंट्रीज़ में, उस पर हम विचार विमर्श कर सकते हैं। बाकी जो एक्शन पॉइंट्स हैं उस पर जो रेलेवेंट मिनिस्ट्रीज़ हैं उन्होंने अपना काम शुरू कर दिया है। तो जितने भी हमने अनाउंस किए थे उसके ऊपर, सबके ऊपर कार्रवाई चालू हो चुकी है और इसका रिजल्ट हम आने वाले दिनों में हम देख लेंगे। देखिए, पाकिस्तान का ऐसा है कि हमें लगा कि ये जो प्लेटफॉर्म था, जो प्लेटफॉर्म किस लिए था, प्लेटफॉर्म था कि कैसे हम बाकी सारे देशों को लाएं, और इस रीजन में इसका पर्पस था कि जो पैंडेमिक है उसको आप कैसे एड्रेस करें। ये कोई पॉलिटिकल प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं था, एक ह्यूमैनिटेरियन प्लेटफॉर्म था, और उसका पाकिस्तान ने दुरुपयोग किया था। मनीष।
Ravish, on corona diplomacy, building on the success of the SAARC initiative, are we also planning such initiatives focused on other plurilateral, multilateral groupings? And also, beside the SAARC region, have we received requests from other countries outside this region for help of any kind? Thanks.
I think it's important for us to understand that at a time when many countries, provinces are in a lockdown situation, some sort of a virtual interaction becomes inevitable and would be useful. In that context, I'm sure many countries would be exploring that possibility to have interaction with leaders around the world, how they're implementing, they're dealing with the situation, and what kind of initiatives they're taking to control and contain this. So it's very natural. Ideas are coming up, and we need to see how far we can take that forward. We'll be working on them. And what was the second question? Yes. There have been some ideas thrown. There have been interactions, ideas been coming up to the Minister of External Affairs, but nothing concrete at this stage. We'll have to see, because I think around the world, I think people and the leaders are quite perturbed, concerned about tackling the situation at this point of time. So as and when these initiatives or ideas come up, I think there will be some due consideration for such ideas.
Manish, on the G20, you must have seen the statement which has been put out by Saudi Arabia, which is the chair of the G20. You know, a decision when to schedule, what is the agenda, who all will participate, the format, etc. that is something which the chair will decide, and you are aware and familiar with the conversation which Prime Minister had with the chair a couple of days back. Suhasini?
One was on the situation of overseas citizens of India. Most countries around the world have put out travel restrictions saying that their citizens as well as permanent residents can return. On the other hand, India stopped the entry of all OCIs because it has put in abeyance their rights to return. Many of those OCIs actually live in India, permanent residents in India. I was wondering if there is any rethink on bringing them back. The second question I really had was about Japan. On March 10th, Japan was part of the countries from which there were travel restrictions. On March 11th, this was lifted. I just wanted to know why. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think if you analyze the gravity of the situation, you will understand that it is not advisable for people to move from one region to another region. So you have to see that in the context of the gravity of the crisis in the world. So, and again, we need to understand that these restrictions are temporary in nature. So one should not panic first. So if let's say Indians who are held up in some places, our advice would be to stay put, because ideally in such a situation, they should be able to take care locally with whatever resources they have. And also, I think our missions, our ambassadors are in the forefront to supporting these standard Indians wherever they are. They are reaching out to them and addressing their concerns. And to the extent possible, we are doing our best. Now, your second question on why Japan is taken out of the list. I think the developments have been reviewed from time to time in terms of how countries are tackling their own situations. And going by the number of the way they have tackled, the numbers coming down is one indication that yes, you could take it out. That was one of the considerations when their travel advisory was issued. Subsequently, that took out Japan from the list. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, second. Smita, and then Srinjo, you have a question too? Smita.
Just two questions, particularly with regards to Iran, because so many reports have been coming in. What are the evacuation SOPs going to be like? Will Indians who have tested positive are going to be evacuated at some stage? Because that country really is facing a huge crisis at this point in time. There's scary reports, even some reports suggesting that the Indian mission was preparing to evacuate itself. And B, has India, Ravish, taken a considered view of the American-led economic sanctions on Iran, and what kind of impact are they having in Iran dealing with the pandemic at the moment?
See, all the questions are related. Just hold on, I think.
The situation in Iran, as you all are aware, actually is a very, very severe situation. The disease is widespread. It has extensively gone on to the other regions of Iran. So we were assessing that situation and taking into consideration what should be our appropriate response to that. So we have, for example, Indians who are stranded there, the pilgrims, the students, both the negatively results have come in their favor, and some are positive. And I've said it in the past also that there's some positive cases. Now, since the last week or so, we have evacuated almost the total number since the evacuation started in Iran is about 590. That's the number that we have. So it is an extraordinary measure and step that was taken. But on the positives, what we are doing about that? I think let me assure you again that our ambassador and the mission is completely in control of the situation. They are in cooperation and assistance of the government of Iran. They have now been very well taken care. They have been segregated. They have been assisted. And we believe that in times to come, they will improve. They will recover fully, and we should be able to bring them back. So that's our objective. So in terms of the US sanctions on Iran, I think that's a bilateral issue between the two countries, and I don't want to comment on such a sensitive matter. We should leave it at that. Thank you.
Srinjoy?
So, there was talk of a plane going to Rome to pick a lot of Indians who are stranded there. When is that likely to happen?
Italy is another country which is very badly affected, severely affected by the disease, and you are quite aware of the lockdown situation within Italy. Both inter-provincial lockdowns have happened, so which made it extremely difficult for even Indians to be able to take any support from the missions or be able to be evacuated. But despite these challenging circumstances, we've been able to evacuate Indians from Milan. And now the next batch we are planning over this weekend. We got the samples, they have been tested. Fortunately, a large number of them are negatives. So those logistic details are being worked out in close consultation with the Ministry of Civil Aviation. So details of which you will know shortly. Thank you.
Riza, you have a question? And Sandeep?
Yeah, the question basically is, the people in Qom, where the reports were coming in about, there were about 170 or so odd positive is what we heard from their families. And there was some reports that they hadn't been segregated from the family members who were negative when the tests were done. Is there a fear that there could be more people who are positive now? And we also heard from at least two other groups of Indians, one in Kish Island and another, they said they were in Ardestan, who hadn't been able to get access to the mission either for testing or for travel. They are these isolated groups. Is anything being done about them? Thank you.
I'll take one more. Sandeep?
Sir, talking of international cooperation, are we working on some joint mathematical model with countries like the US or Germany so that we can more effectively put our energies together? And second, are we taking some lessons from China, which claims that the number of cases has gone down or no new case has been reported?
On
I'm not sure if I got everything right, but I will, in terms of questions, but I'll take Iran situation first. You mentioned about whether there was any mix-up between the negatives and the positives, but let me assure you again that adequate care was taken to separate the two. And we know the dangers of having this kind of a mix, but our mission have done the best to separate, and subsequently we were able to successfully separate the two and put them in proper medical conditions in Iran, despite the challenges that we are facing. The feedback we are getting from the mission, our ambassador, is that things are now quite controlled and they are recovering. That's the message we are getting, so there's no need to panic on that front. Now, in terms of Kish Island, now this is a very, if you look at the geography of Iran, and you'll see Kish is quite isolated from, it's an island in down Iran, southern part of Iran. Now, there has been some kind of difficulties accessing the region because of this inter-provincial lockdown in Iran itself. So it's, one is the distance and the other is the difficulty of the lockdown situation there. So which made it difficult for to access that places for some time. But now the mission has reached out to them. Some provisions have been provided for them to assist. So we understand, and the feedback we are getting, that they are under good support and care of the mission, and things are getting normal. China. So in terms of China, yes, in my view, that the best practices around the world, we should be always studying and see if they have been helpful in any country. We should also see whether, to what extent we can introduce in our situation. Although I would say that each region or a country has its own challenges, but it's important to study them and see to what extent they're practically implementable in our country. I think this is under study, and these are being discussed in the review group, in the group of secretaries, and then we're trying to bring out with certain kind of guidelines on that as well. So, yes, best practices around the world are definitely worthwhile studying.
Reza, just to kind of come to your question, you see, the missions across, our Indian missions across the world, and wherever you have this pandemic quite widespread, we are actually functioning under tremendous local challenges. Local challenges, because the ecosystem under which you operate is not under your control. You have restrictions in terms of travel, you have restrictions in terms of medical facilities. And therefore, the people who are right at the front, they are trying their best to be of help, in terms of providing them accommodation, in terms of arranging food in a lockdown situation. So there are challenges. For example, in the Kish Island, let me share with you that where it was not possible for the mission officials to reach the island, we got in touch with a local supplier, who could supply provisions to the Indians, they are mainly fishermen. And that arrangement has been working very well. So wherever you see, I think it has to be kept in mind that the mission officials who are right at the forefront, they are operating under some real complex environment, and they also have to follow the local guidelines and advisories which are in place and which gets reviewed from time to time.
Every step of the protocol that is involved in getting onto one of these evacuation flights. So far, it's sounding a bit arbitrary. There are some people who are getting on it, some people are not. Some countries, they're being told to get a medical certificate, but these countries are not issuing these certificates, so this certificate doesn't exist. But I also understand the missions are also doing some sort of testing. What is the criteria involved to even get yourself tested, either by the countries or the missions? Once you get tested, what is the criteria involved in stepping foot on the Indian evacuation flight? How is it that some people are getting on the flight, some people are not?
Can I just add to this in terms of especially the student evacuations happening? So many universities in Europe that is under lockdown, they've also shut down. So what is your SOP in terms of evacuation of students who are stuck?
Or the SOPs for the medical certificates, the evacuation, let me tell you again, it is not easy to get medical certificate. Of course, we know this. Many countries don't do medical certificates on people unless they see symptoms there. And we've seen this in Europe and many other countries. So how do you do this? You will have to target people, Indian nationals who have this difficulty. We've been telling them if you could get certificate is the best. That's the best option. Now you can't do, because obviously you don't have control over those countries. So you have to fall back on the local authorities and request them for support and help. Now missions and the ambassadors have been trying their best to get that support. Now let's come to the students. We consider students as the most important priority category because for a variety of reasons. One is that the local accommodation, universities, education institutions have closed down, so they are in a difficult terrain. And how do you bring them back? So the medical tests that were conducted in, for example, in Rome, the mission actually had opened up the entire building to do the testing at the mission. So we were able to do, and ambassador informed a lot of the students around to come to the mission to get the test done. So that was an exercise done. Milan we tried too, but unfortunately in the case of Milan, the whole Milan was locked down. So no medical team could go to Milan to be able to do tests on the students and find out what is the status of each of the case and be able to bring them back. So that's a specific situations one has to understand, but definitely students are a priority and other Indian nationals too. To the extent possible, they should be approaching the missions and take guidance and stay put in that place, because it is not in anyone's interest, not even their interest, not in the near and dear ones, and to come back and then thinking that it's a safe environment in some other place. So we have to be very sensitive in how you convey this message. So we believe that this is a temporary situation. We will overcome this. Collectively, we'll all be able to fight it if we cooperate. That should be the spirit. Thank you.
No, you see, I think, can I answer this? You know, there is a, you're talking about protocol. I think it is important for you to first go through all the advisories which we have issued. You know, I mean, COVID-19 certificate, negative certificate is not the requirement for all the countries. And it is very clearly specified from which countries these requirements are needed. Now, what happens, I mean, if you decide that if you have to evacuate Indian students from Italy, first, the way we did it in Wuhan, you first ascertain their request or interest. Not everybody may be interested in going. So you start compiling data, you put it out in the public domain, you start contacting students, then you build up a database that there are so many Indian students who would be willing to be brought back to India. Then comes the testing part. If you have testing facilities available locally, then the testing is done. If not, like in case of Italy, we sent a medical team there. The medical team took the swab tests of all the Indian students who had indicated their interest in coming back. Now, based on the result, those who have been tested negative, they will be brought back. If it is one flight, if it is two flight, but anybody who has been tested negative, and as AS mentioned, that we have to prioritize. I mean, where do you bring the students from? As we have been kind of sharing from the beginning, appealing from the beginning, that it is best that they stay put wherever they are. If they are not in a epicenter, they should stay wherever they are. And only people who are directly affected, where we realize that the situation is getting out of hand, then we try to bring them in.
Large number are tested negative. My question is there is any confirmed positive cases of Indian in Italy?
Sir, a related question. Italy is now going to touch almost 3,000 deaths. It's only second to China. Now, what are the numbers? What are the kind of numbers we are looking at Indian citizens in Italy who could be needing evacuation?
I think I'll ask the first question first. See, in terms of the test, the last test that when the medical team went over a period of time of 3 days, they brought about 380 samples. And now these have been tested, out of which 376 are negative and only 4 have turned out to be positive. So then, accordingly the operations for bringing them back will be initiated over the weekend. But I think you must keep in mind that it's not anymore the rescue missions that are important that we need to focus on. We need to focus on containing the spreading of this disease. That should be our priority. So wherever Indians are, the first advice and primary advice should be that they stay put where they are. We need to work together to control the situation. And we believe that wherever they are, they're safe. And if they're taking care of themselves, they're taking the advice of the mission, the local Indian community support, they will be safe, and they will, even the positive cases, we are hopeful they will recover. Now, in the specific case of Italy, I know everyone is aware that the disease is spreading fast, but there is also recovery. A lot of people are also recovering. So depending on the age, depending on the level of resistance and immunity levels that people have, so there are recovery phases. So we should remain hopeful given the magnitude of the crisis that is there, and unitedly fight this pandemic.
National flights in and out of India, whether that was something you talked about.
You have a question as well? Yeah.
As of now, it's prohibited for people to travel to India from the EU Schengen zone, be it foreigners, be it Indians. When deciding to allow people again to come back to India, to travel to India from one of these countries, will it be decided on a country-by-country basis, or again as a Schengen zone block?
Thank you. No, is it decided on a country basis? No, coming back to India or as a block? I think he can answer that. The second question, the restriction in terms of Indian nationals and foreigners coming in.
Ma'am, the restrictions were for the passengers from EU, ETFA, Turkey and UK as far as you are concerned, which were issued day before yesterday. So, what else you would like to know on this? Yes, we decided EU as a block and ETF as a block.
On a country-by-country basis in Europe, or would you decide it only when Europe as a whole is deemed safe enough to let people to come back?
No, we decided it as a block, and regarding Indians coming back, I think, sir, you would be able to. Yeah.
Let me reiterate again what I said. As far as the evacuation of foreigners who are stranded in India are concerned, it will be on a request basis, but this has been so. In the case of now Poland, we had given clearance for the Polish flights to come to India to take their nationals back. That has already happened successfully. Specific requests of the countries have been considered on a case-by-case basis. Now, in the case of Indian nationals stranded there, we believe that it's safe for them and for the near and dear ones that they stay put there. We don't know, because you may be unwittingly carrying you may be a carrier of it, and then you might spread it. So you may appear not to be having any symptoms, but who knows, 14 days later that symptoms show up, and then there's a panic on the home front, and the near and dear and also get affected. So we had to be very, very careful and sensitive to spreading this around, So that's one priority. The second one is now international flights. Now, what will happen to the international flights? I think we need to wait for the advisory to come out to explain exactly how we are dealing with the situation. So, Europe, there was one advisory before, and subsequently there may be other advisories depending on how the situation is.
See, please try to understand that it's an evolving situation, and it is very difficult to predict what is going to happen tomorrow. We have shared at this forum that it is being monitored at a high level. You have a group of ministers, you have a committee of secretaries, and taking into account various developments in the last 24 hours or perhaps more, consider decisions taken. So please wait for the advisory. If any decision is coming out, I think it will come out through an advisory. Siddhant?
Since the coming in effect of the no visa policy, so that people do not come there in India, how much has there been a decrease in number of foreigners coming to India? I think you can give the data, sir.
Coming in. Coming in, if you see on 20th February, we had around 63,275 Indians who came to India. And as of yesterday, the figure has dropped down to 41,136 of the Indians' arrival. Foreigners, we had dropped down from, in this period from 20th February, it was 33,000, and now it's around 1,245.
Hold on. Here, front row.
It's been reported that Nepal has consulted India for putting the complete restriction on the people's movement across the border, and India has told Nepal to wait for the 1 day, for just 1 or 2 days. What's the update on that? And if that sort of decision will be taken, then what will be the fate of the people who are going back to their native places from the people who are working in India? Because it almost takes the 6 or 7 days to get back to their borders.
All the ICPs, wherever on the Indo-Nepal border, there are the Nepalese citizens as well as Indian citizens. They are moving freely. We have adequate medical teams there who are checking the incoming and outgoing, and there are no restrictions for the Indians and Nepalese citizens due to the treaty which we have enjoyed.
Nepal has requested India, why don't we put the complete restriction on the movement of the people across the border? Is there any update on that? Yesterday it's been reported that Nepal has asked India.
You see, whatever decisions are being taken, even on the ICPs, the decisions are being conveyed through an advisory. So let us not get into what is being discussed behind the scenes. Let us just wait for the advisory. Let us not speculate too much. If a decision is taken, as I said, it's an evolving situation. If the situation demands to move in a certain direction, that has to be done. I'll take the last maybe 3-4 questions because they have another briefing at 5 o'clock. Geeta, Aarti.
Just wanted to know about the status of people stranded at airports, Heathrow, Schiphol. There are many Indian students who were stranded because universities shut, also Indonesia and Philippines.
Thank you. Aarti?
I wanted to know about the 26,000 Indian nationals who are reportedly coming back from the Gulf countries. Is this report correct? And what are the arrangements that have been made to quarantine them once they land in India?
Aarti, the second part, I think you will have to refer. There is a briefing at 5 o'clock. So, you will have to ask the health authorities and state authorities. But the first part we will answer. Shalinder?
सर जो यूएन पीस कीपिंग मिशन के तहत जो सोल्जर्स बाहर जाते हैं ड्यूटी पे, क्या उनके लिए कोई फैसला लिया जा रहा है कि उनको वापस भारत लाया जाएगा?
थैंक यू. मे बी यहाँ सामने.
सर, जो इंडियंस बाहर से आ रहे हैं उनका एयरपोर्ट पे स्क्रीनिंग वगैरह हो रही है, लेकिन वहाँ से फिर जो अपने स्टेट्स में जा रहे हैं, जैसे यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के कुछ बैचेस स्टूडेंट्स के गए हुए थे, वो जहाँ जहाँ पहुँच रहे हैं, 150-200 कल आए थे इंडिया में. हमारे आसपास की सोसाइटीज़ में जहाँ वो जा रहे हैं वहाँ पैनिक का माहौल है, वो वहाँ से जाके टेस्ट नहीं करा रहे हैं. तो उनके लिए क्या टेस्ट ये मैंडेटरी है? और दूसरा, हेल्पलाइन वगैरह पे स्टेट्स की हेल्पलाइन पे जब फ़ोन किया जाता है तो वहाँ से कोई टीम नहीं जा रही है उनको देखने के लिए. सोसाइटीज़ में जो है एकदम डर का माहौल है.
नहीं, देखिए ऐसा है ना कि मैंने पहले ही कहा था कि हम जो सवाल का जवाब देंगे वो हमारे एमईए पर्सपेक्टिव से होगा. काफ़ी सारे एडवाइजरीज इशूज हुए हैं जो हमारे जो अंदरूनी मामला है उसमें अप्लीकेबल है. तो अगर आप if you have some information, then you can share.
No, I think the health issues, related issues, may I request you to address to Health Ministry, because there will be another briefing later subsequently. This question can be directed to them, because then the reply will be more precise and accurate. Let me take the other questions. You would like to add? Yeah.
Yeah. All the Indians who are coming in, we are giving that data to the respective states. The state health authorities are contacting them and monitoring them. So be rest assured, whoever has come back from any of the foreign countries, even if they have not been quarantined at the airport because he tested negative at the airport, so they would be, the state authorities would be touched. Details on this in the health ministry officials would be able to tell you. Thank you.
Yeah. So the question on the stranded Indians in various airports, now that's one specifically raised. Now we need to understand whether the flights that took off respected the embargo that came into effect. So we have to see whether that's correct way, because some airlines have taken the passengers and are leaving them in the transit area. Notwithstanding, our missions are talking to the local authorities and trying to understand how to deal with that. Be rest assured, again, all support will be given, and we case-by-case basis will deal with that situation. In terms of Manila and Singapore, that's two cases you raised. Now, in case of Singapore, all the students in Singapore that were there are now would have left by now, because the mission or ambassador, in consultation with the civil aviation here and MEA, we worked closely with the local authorities, and they have been successfully lifted, and they should be heading home any moment. The Manila, well, again, the embargo came into effect, but some people were able to leave before the embargo, but some people could not leave before the embargo. So they remained there. But our mission contacted them, they facilitated them to go back to places, because I think the accommodation of the local universities and authorities are still open for the students. So that's what we understand. And every help that was needed was given by the mission there. The ambassador has taken great interest in ensuring their safety and security. We believe that situation under control in Manila. So, yeah, Heathrow and Schiphol, these are situations, feedback we are getting now, but we don't have specific details of how many Indians are there. That's what I said. We need to look into the aspect of whether the flights have respected the embargo or not. You know, it is not right for airlines to lift the passengers and leave them midway in the transit, and that's not fair for our Indians who are stranded. So again, these challenges we will be dealing with specifically. In terms of Gulf numbers, I don't have the 20,000 Indians wanting to come back. That I don't know where this number came to you. We don't yet have that clarity on that. Probably we'll take some feedback from our mission in the Gulf region.
You know, that's a UN.
On the UN mission personnel, I think to the extent possible, as you know, the previous advisory is very clear that exemption categories are the UN, the diplomatic and personnel, project workers, and the crew. So this is a very clearly defined category who are exempted. But some UN mission who have been able to come back. But again, our advice is unless and until it's really necessary for them to undertake travel, they should not go out. So that is now very clear for them. I don't think we have had any incidents in the last 2-3 days of any UN mission having stuck anywhere else. But if there are, we will take up.
Friends, thank you very much. There is a briefing immediately after this at the National Media Center. Thank you all for joining.